This is a first look at this app called Ivella, and I don't know why someone hasn't made this before. It just seems so logical to have banking that's designed for couples from the onset, especially if you're still dating. So I just want to go over this today because I just found out about this service like a couple months ago. I don't personally use it, but I wanted to go over the features to show you what it's all about and just expose you to it because I think it's a really cool idea. And I think that especially if you're dating or if you're engaged and you want to start kind of figuring out how to do finances together, but not necessarily share like one singular bank account, then this is a really cool service. So these are the three different kinds of accounts that you can have with them. The first is a split account. The second is a joint, and the third is savings pods. So the first one is really if you're just dating or if you're just engaged, but really this is the one and only kind of account that they're recommending for you if you're still dating. And that's a split account because it's individual accounts. So it keeps your two people's money separate, but it automatically splits your transactions. So these are like people who are potentially living together, who want to share expenses like, hey, let's split rent, let's split utilities, let's split food, all these different things, and do it really automatically and easily. This is really cool. It just does it for you. You don't have to just keep Venmoing each other over and over or have like some potential resentment built up in the relationship, because one of the biggest dividers of relationships is money. And so this way it can be automatic, or you can pay and request from your partner. And so it makes it easy from within the service. So let's dive a little deeper into this and learn more. First off, here's kind of a little visual of what the account would look like, I assume, whenever you're doing this together. So it shows each person's account, gives you some options of things you can do here: deposit, transfer, pay, more, all that kind of jazz. Let's zoom in a little bit here. So it says that right off the bat, whenever you sign up, you and your partner can set a ratio of how much you'd like to split together. So they automatically do that work for you, and then you basically just set it and forget it from then. And I think that this is a really cool, like, seamless feature because you're not having to do that math over and over. For whatever reason, if there's some reason why you'd want to split it, maybe somebody earns more money, maybe somebody is kind of doing part-time work and so it's intermittent, maybe you just have some agreement that like, hey, this person in the relationship is going to cover 75% of the costs and the other person will do 25. Whatever that looks like, this just sets it up for you. Handy. I love stuff that's automatic. You know me. I love an automatic payment. I love an automatic investment. Anything that's more automatic, it makes our lives easier. And so with this joint account, each of you have individual accounts and balances. So you're not blending your money together. This is not what that is. And so it keeps you separate from them. Like they are not able to withdraw money from your account, but if you want to, then you can split whatever you want. And so I think this is a really powerful thing for people who are not yet ready to make joint accounts. Maybe you're never going to want to do this. Like they're marketing this for dating, but maybe you're married and you want to have separate accounts for forever. This could really streamline your processes to do that and make it a lot easier on you. Personally, my wife and I do have a joint account. And so basically when we got married, I was like, shutting down my all accounts, transferring whatever money I had, which was not a lot at the time, over to her account, and then we just added me on there. So we've been joint ever since. But I know that there's some married people or people who are on their second marriage who are like, hey, the first time around, it didn't go well. So this time we're having separate accounts. This could be a lot easier for you if you're doing that. Oh, and this is a really cool feature too. Look, you can go back proactively, retroactively, and change the split of any individual transaction at any time. So after you've made it, you can go back and be like, nah, let's not make it 50-50 or whatever we had it. Let's make it more this way than the other. I could see that being for, like an Amazon purchase. Maybe somebody bought a bunch of stuff and the other person didn't. Or maybe even at like dinner. Hey man, I'm not drinking right now. So if you want to have your 2 beers, that's fine, but I'm not going to pay for it. So he pays an extra $20, you don't. That makes it really easy. Oh, and this is really cool to track spending. I wonder how this works. I'm assuming that you have got to link an account with it. So maybe you link like a debit card to it or you link a credit card to it, and then you can actually track spending together. I think that is really handy. This isn't like a sexy thing. This isn't going to make us rich necessarily. I mean, it's going to prevent us from getting poor, but the kind of things that help us to keep our money on track and actually know what's happening is tracking spending. And so if this makes that easier, then I'm all about it. I'm actually still personally searching for some way to track our spending the easiest way. Part of what makes it difficult for me is we use a bunch of different forms of payment. And so if we narrowed that down and we were like, look, we're using one card, we can track everything easily through one card. That would make our lives a lot easier. So that's actually one of my goals this year, is to funnel everything personal through one card, everything business through another card. So we literally have 2 forms of payment, nothing else. Streamline, baby. And these little views here aren't the actual app itself, but it looks like the user interface and the design would be really nice and clean and obvious. Like I like these little line graphs that make it easy to see where the split is. I like the clarity of having different people be a different color. That makes it really easy. Like this person here, I guess it's Derek, kind of hard to see. No, Peter. The person in red is the person in red. The person in purple is the person in purple. Like you just keep it really easy and really straightforward. I like things to be easy. Oh, there's Ivella cards. Okay, so that's probably how it partially works. So I'm guessing that because you have dedicated accounts with your own account and routing numbers, that it's basically a debit card through Ivella. So you're going to put money in, well, in this case, not together. I was going to say you're going to put money in together. But you'll put money in, have it be split in different accounts, and then you each have your own card, which is also correlating to that color thing, which makes it easy. And then you can track everything through them. So they are becoming the payment method for you. It's not, I don't think, that you're linking a credit card or a debit card. It looks like you're actually just using them as your form of payment and keeping things really clear that way. I mean, the only thing that I don't love about that, to have a physical card with them, it is a Visa card, which is nice. It's a Visa debit card. The nice thing about that is the clarity, that it's going to be really clear. It's going to be really easy. It's going to be very obvious. You're going to give up some rewards though. So if you're like me and you like to have some credit card rewards, maybe a sign up bonus, maybe you get some mileage to go on that trip. I'm assuming there's 0 rewards with this because typically these kinds of like in-house cards don't have the same rewards that like a promotional card from a Chase or somebody else would have. So I think in the end, you're going to end up winning this way. If nothing else, relationally, you'll end up winning if you can keep things transparent and keep everybody on the same page. Like we talked about this, we agreed to it, we're managing it. This makes managing our money easier together. Prioritize the relationship over credit card points. I think that's a win. But just so we know, you're probably going to give up some rewards. Okay, let's get into the details here. What is a split account? I want to know specifically what exactly is it. Split ratio. I mean, it's just got to be a bank account, right? So like a checking account. Oh, that's interesting. I was just sure that this would be something that you had to pay for month by month, but it says the split account is entirely free to use. No initiation costs, account minimums, or overdraft fees. Wow, that's a value add to people. How do they make money? Something's got to cost money here. It says it doesn't affect your credit. The Ivella split account functions like a checking account. Your partner will not have visibility to your external bank account information. That's really good. And then, of course, the question we've all got to ask, right? What happens if my partner and I break up? So you can disconnect from one another by clicking on their profile card in the dashboard, or you can email their support team. Then whenever you do disconnect, you each will get your own respective balances. So you'll get totally independent accounts. I'm assuming then you could transfer the money out, put it back in your original bank account, and make a clean split. Wow. So one of these other features then must actually be paid. It's got to be, right? Because if this split account is totally free, which is a pretty huge value add, Ivella has to be making money somewhere. Let's try and find out where. And let's go over the 2 other account types. So now let's talk about this joint account that says it's best if engaged or married, which is a little different than the split account because this one now is going to be joint. 2 people sharing one account together. Manage all your shared finances, FDIC insured up to $500,000. I'm guessing because now it's 2 people instead of 1 individual. So same coverage per person, just now it's joint together. The best designed joint account on the market. Looks really similar to the previous UI, but now you've got one kind of lump together up here instead of 2 separate accounts, which makes sense. Let's get into the features. Is this really worth it? So you'd be able to see your joint checking balance together plus your savings pods. Okay, that's a little bit of a preview of what we're going to go over next, but the savings pods will also be viewed there. You can grow your money with savings pods. We'll talk about that in just a minute. We'll focus on this joint checking first. Can track your finances both with a physical and virtual cards. Okay, that's cool. I love a virtual card. Oh, and then look, you can see right here in the UI of the app itself that there's a little checkbox for one person here. Julia has her own side of a virtual card, and then Dominic has his side of a virtual card. So it's still able to be separate, and you can still track like who spent what, which is really useful. You go somewhere like Amazon or Costco or whatever like we do. I don't know who spent the money or what it was or whatever. So kind of nice to be able to keep that separately. You remember who did what. Your relationship's third wheel. It's kind of funny. Let's get into the FAQ here and figure out what the skinny is because they've got to be charging us money for this, right? So each person co-owns the account. You can both deposit, withdraw, and spend the money. That makes sense. You don't have to be married. You can open an account with your sibling or mom or whoever. So that's kind of handy. Like maybe you're a roommate with a sibling. This could be really useful for you. All right, let's talk about fees. Joint account has no monthly maintenance fees, no overdraft fees, or minimum account balance fees. Where's the money come in, guys? You got to charge us at some point, right? How many cards will you get? You and your partner will both get 1 physical and 1 virtual. So total you'll get 4. Okay. And it's confirmed. It's a debit card. This is not a credit card. No credit related issues here from what I understand. Oh, and that's cool. You can send money from your joint account to any bank account holder in the US. So you don't have to have like a separate Venmo account or cash account or something else. I like that. You can use ATMs. You can use your card pretty much anywhere Visa cards are accepted, it looks like. Here we go. Let's confirm the credit suspicion. Nope. It's a joint checking and savings account. No effect on credit. So that's pretty cool, especially if you've got credit concerns. In the event of a death, the assets of the account will be belong to the remaining partner. Good to know. That happens to you. So it's really a joint, like nicely organized checking account where you've got a debit card and a virtual card, and that's good. Only one virtual card though. It's a little bit of a limit. Okay, now let's get into the savings pod thing because there's got to be something here that charges us money, right? Cannot all be free. All right, savings pods, best if engaged or married. Joint savings account, 5.15% APY. Jeez, guys coming out swinging hard. That is really good for nowadays. Wow. I mean, the counterpart, if you're not familiar with like high interest rates in terms of money that we're borrowing, we also get high interest rates right now because of our savings accounts. So 5.15% is nothing to sneeze at. That's awesome. And create up to 500 pods. I assume a pod is just like a different savings bucket, like a different goal. 500? That's so many. And also FDIC insured. Okay, let's learn more. Best joint savings experience, hands down. Yeah, we'll see. Want to know how we compare? Yes, I do. That's why we're here. So Ivella has higher APY than SoFi, Ally, and obviously Chase. Any of the big banks. Laughable. So these other smaller banks are the ones that are going to give us a better APY, but still 5.15, that's nothing to sneeze at. And they have, there it is, 500 pods versus SoFi's 20 vaults or Ally's 10 buckets. I mean, I get that you want to win the numbers game here, guys, but that is so much. Like, who needs 500 different slots to save for things? I'm going to save for lunch on Wednesday. I'm going to save for lunch on Tuesday. I'm going to save for lunch on Saturday. Wow. I mean, I like the idea of having your money kind of segmented out into different goals. Like here at the top, it showed emergency fund, honeymoon, for Cleo, the doggy, a rainy day fund, which is kind of the same as an emergency fund, for having children, for medical expenses. Like you can definitely have all those things organized and segmented nicely here, which I really like. I just feel like 500 is more than anyone will realistically use, but hey, could be wrong. It's a feature. I like it. And then here's all the features. So more interest than a normal savings account, which I like. 500 pods, spend with ease with a virtual card. Is it just one virtual card? Because what I have loved with my X1 card, my X1 credit card, is that I can create, like, as far as I know, unlimited virtual cards. So maybe I'm going to subscribe to something and I really only want to do it for a month. I can also remember to try and cancel the subscription after a month, but I can set the virtual card to cancel after like a week. So it can be charged once and then the virtual card just explodes in space and it can never be charged again, which is really handy for me. I'd be a little bummed if it's only one virtual card, but we'll find out here when the FAQ comes up. So you've got dedicated accounts. Each pod is an account and routing number into itself. That is very interesting. So you could have 500 different accounts. Wow, that is interesting. So that must mean that you can spend from each account then, I'll bet, and it tracks your goals too. I love the clarity of this because realistically, we don't just have one pool of money that we can easily segment out in our minds for all the different things in life. Like I know that our AC unit is going to go out. It's from the 70s. It barely hangs on in the Arizona summer. It's going to go out soon. I'd love to know if we've got whatever an AC unit costs, $5,000 saved up. I know that we need to be saving up for our next cars. Yeah, we're 7 years away from needing another car, but cars are freaking expensive. So having something like this where it's like, hey, let's save up $30,000 for another car. Cool. I'd love to see that little progress bar and know exactly where we stand. We also want to do our landscaping, which is absurdly expensive. Have you ever priced out artificial turf? We have like not a big yard. It was like $18,000 to put artificial turf in. Crazy. So we're not saving up for that because I don't think it's worth it. But to do some landscaping costs, we got to have a few $1,000s, I'm sure. I would really like to have that option of these different savings buckets to save for individual goals. I think that's really a value add thing because you know really where you're at and things don't get all mixed up that way. You can go, well, it's not that we have $40,000 laying around that we can spend. It's $5,000 is for the AC unit, $15,000 is for the car, $5,000 is for the landscaping. We don't have that money to spend. It's allocated to something. That's what I would hope it would help us to understand. So we assumed a savings pod is what it is, which is a unique savings account that you can save for a particular goal. I like that. You can open up to 500 of them, just like we thought. Oh, Pods Plus. This must be the paid feature. Where is it? How much does it cost? Show me the cost. How much does Pods Plus cost? $5 per month per couple. That's still pretty cheap. $5 per month. I mean, $60 a year to get all that feature. If you want, more than whatever, one savings pod that you must get without it, I wonder if it'll tell you, there's the free version. I wonder how many pods you get. So 500 savings pods, a goal for every pod, create up to 2 virtual cards for just that pod. Oh, there you go. So that's 1,000 different virtual cards you could set up with this account then. That is awesome. If you haven't used a virtual card before, it's pretty cool. You literally just say, I want to generate a card for this reason. Like you can nickname it, and then it creates a unique card number for that time that you're using it. And then it can be a recurring transaction like a normal card. It can be a one and done. It can be a time limit thing, like whatever. It's really cool. What APY will we have? Oh, here we go. Here's another feature that we're missing out on if we're not paying the $5 per month to get Pods Plus. You're only getting a 1% APY. So it looks like the real draw and the reason that you would pay is A, you want a whole bunch of savings pods and virtual cards, which is a value add. B, you want 5.15% APY. So you've got to have at least a few $1,000s that you're planning on keeping in here to justify that $5 a month because you're getting 4.15% more APY. But for only $5 a month, that's not a huge deal. Let's calculate how much you have to break even here. So $60 a year divided by 4.15%. As long as you have $1,445 saved in there, it'll pay for itself. It's not bad. And of course, the APY doesn't stay at 5.15% because based on what the federal funds rate does, it's going to change. So for right now, it's 5.15%, but like all checking and savings accounts rates over time, just like all interest rates over time, they go up and down. 5 years ago, this would have been 1.25%. Now it's 5%. In 5 years, who knows what it's going to be. So we can't count on this for forever. We're not locking in this rate for X amount of years. This is totally variable. Interest is accrued daily and paid at the beginning of the following month. So that means if you take it out partway through, then you get all that daily interest that's accrued, but you only get it paid the following month. Makes sense? Is there a free trial for Pods Plus? Ooh, that's interesting. I like that. 30-day, yes. Dude, a risk-free trial needs to be at least 28 days, I think. A 7-day trial is okay. A 24-hour trial is a joke. 30-day is like a real trial. So if you don't like it, cancel it, and they'll refund you for your entire first month, no questions asked. Okay, so it's not really a free trial. It's more like a no questions asked guarantee that they'll refund you after a month, but you're still paying for the first month. This is pretty cool. So you send money to the savings pod either directly from your external bank account or from your Ivella joint checking. That totally makes sense. A deposit limit. Who's rich enough to care about deposit limits? Come on, guys. But each pod has its own independent deposit and transaction limit. I'm guessing that by the time you break it out into 10 different pods, nobody has that much money to worry about this. Then if one of us deletes a pod, I like that question. Bob, why'd you delete our vacation pod? If you delete it, it gets instantly transferred back to your joint checking account. That's good. You're not going to lose the money. Each savings pod has its own unique account and routing number, which we know. Everything's FDIC insured. I think that's everything. Wow. So the baseline features are totally free. I mean, not totally free. It's like an investing account. It's not that everything is totally free without cost to us. It's just they're not withdrawing money straight out of your account. There's ways that Ivella, I'm sure, can make money by holding our cash, by maybe some transaction fees they get like for being the merchant. There's ways they'll make money outside of just the $5 a month for the Pod Plus thing. But as far as what's actually costing us money like a bill, checking is free, basic savings pod is free, it's only 1% interest, and only, I don't know how many the base level of savings pods is. How many savings pods do you get if you're not paying for Pods Plus? I'm guessing it's only one. Did I miss that? Oh yeah, here it is. One savings pod automatically. You just get one. So you get one checking account and one savings pod unless you're paying for Pods Plus. I mean, even that's not bad because if the difference is that you and your partner can't really keep track of what your money is doing and this is a clear enough way to do that for you, then I think this could be really helpful for us financially. It's not like it's going to grow our net worth into itself like an investing account would, but it may prevent problems from happening in terms of conflict between us, or might prevent things from happening that we don't like oh man, we're spending too much money on this thing, like what happened there? If this helps two different people to see what's happening together, then that's a real value add. So if you think critically about this, what's the real difference between like what my wife and I are doing now, where we have one joint account, we're both spending from a debit card or a credit card? What's the difference between what we're doing now and this? I'd say one thing I notice is that it looks like it's going to differentiate who spends what. So like right now, my wife and I both have a version of like the same credit card, but it doesn't say Brendan spent this money at Target or she spent this money at Target. It's all just going to be mixed in together. It just bases it on the card number, where it looks to me like this would actually differentiate who spent what on the card because you've got separate cards. Could be wrong there, but that would be handy if it did that. And I like that. And then if you are still dating, having the two separate accounts but viewed together in one window, I think that is actually a better value add than the joint checking account. Because the joint checking account is really similar to what any checking account with two people would have. The fact that you could have one app view with two separate accounts so that you can each share that and split your expenses together, that's pretty huge. I think that's really, really cool. And then obviously the savings pods are really cool. I mean, having that ability to track all those individual goals, I think, is a big value add, and having the better interest rate is a big value add. So it's not like a dead giveaway that everyone, if you're in a relationship, you have to use this service. But I think if you're somebody who wants to have separate accounts, then I think this is a huge value. And if you're somebody who has a joint account and you want it to be really clear and simple and use those savings pods, and you have a need for more than, let's say, Ally or SoFi offers, like you want to have 21 and they only give you 20. I think this is really cool. I feel like one last question people might want to ask is Ivella a bank? And like a lot of these other companies that I've talked about in the past and used in the past, Ivella itself, the middleman that we're dealing with, isn't the bank. They are a technology service company that processes information from a bank for us. So it looks really beautiful so we can interact with it nicely. But the actual banking services themselves are provided by another bank. So in this case, Blue Ridge Bank NA, member FDIC, whatever that is. I'm not familiar with them. Can't make any comments about them in particular, but that's a pretty standard setup, if you will, that they use a bank so that they don't have to become a bank themselves, because I'm guessing that's a crazy amount of work. They're just kind of curating all the bank data for us so that it's easier for us to use. Pretty cool. And if another one of your FAQs was noticing that I changed shirts halfway through this video, it's because after I got done with the separate account section of the video, my audio all died, and so I had to totally re-record this section of the video for you. But I love you, and I will do anything to give you this value. Pretty interesting stuff. I wonder if we would spend less if we use a service like this. I mean, me personally, because I've used my own budgeting service in the past. Here, let me show you my own budget. What I really like about this kind of joint view and the savings pod situation is just how clear it is, because I've used my own budgeting app in the past, my own budgeting spreadsheet. So I built this. So the way I set this up, which I thought made sense to me, was right here at a glance at the top, you see your budgeted amount that you thought you would spend versus the actual amount that you did spend. So you can compare right away, are we on track or not, the remaining amount, and then these turn green if we have extra money in here, or they turn red if we're like out of money, or if we've overspent. So to me, I was like, oh, cool, easy, it'll keep us on track. You put in how much money you expect to make in the beginning of the month, so you can base everything off of that. At the very, very bottom, you put in your budgeted expectation spending, if you will. So you can set up, hey, we're gonna spend this much on our mortgage payment, utilities, insurance, regular expenses like food, hair and beauty, household stuff, restaurants, transportation, if you want to give any money away, if you're going to invest money. And then this is essentially my savings pods down here at the bottom. Like I'm going to save up for a new car, save up for a new camera, whatever that looks like. So you build all that in first, and then this whole big chunk in the middle that's all blank right now, or where you actually had to manually track the transactions. So you say, hey, it's February 29th. I bought a new iPhone. The category is whatever. Here's the amount it was. I bought it because I really wanted it, didn't need it, but I just love it. And I put it on this card. You don't have to do the card part, but I thought it'd be interesting to track. So the problem with this is that it's a lot of work. You have to manually input every single transaction. And what I ended up doing was I would miss it during the month, and like partway through I'd give up, and then I'd go back maybe a month later when everything has like hit our different accounts, and I'd go through account by account and like reconcile this thing, and then have a post-mortem after the month was over and go, oh man, we're like really behind and we spent too much on food or whatever the thing was, or we did well and, you know, we invested more than we thought and it was great. So I don't think Ivella is necessarily like a budget app replacement, but the transparency you get in real time, I think would be really nice. The big thing that I think we would give up, that's not that big, but the thing we would give up if we went from our current system using credit cards and budgeting this way, which I only budget this way like 3 months out of the year, if I'm honest. It's just too much work otherwise. The thing we'd really give up is our credit card point rewards. And there's an argument to be had there, because some people say, well, when you're spending with a credit card, you overspend. Where if you're spending with a debit card and you see your account balance dwindling with every purchase, there's a psychology factor that happens in there. It makes you spend less. So in theory, you retain more money even though you give up the credit card points, because you're going to end up spending less. It's like a natural feedback loop with a debit card. So in that case, Ivella would have the upper hand. If you're in the other camp where you say, no, the psychology doesn't matter, I'm going to spend the same amount no matter what, that doesn't affect me, I'm just missing out on credit card points if I use a debit card, well, then you want to keep using the credit card points. So I'm kind of split on that, because I feel like it would matter if you were like, hey man, I really don't want to spend any more money because I can see we're down to X dollars in the account. I don't feel like spending anymore. I want to be happy like these people are in all these cute pictures and not have to stress about this with my spouse. I don't want to spend as much. I could see that being a real thing, but I also will sign up for a new credit card probably once or twice a year, get a big lump of points, pay everything off every month so I never pay $1 in interest, and so I'm not really missing out on anything in that way. Like I never overspend. We never carry a balance on a credit card. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. I mean, we're probably really arguing over the details that don't matter. Whenever we're getting into these little figures and we're doing math and we're figuring out that stuff, we're probably missing the big picture is my typical kind of consensus on this kind of thing. I feel like the big thing is that we say, we have decided together we're going to spend money in this way. We have decided together we have these goals. So let's spend our money in a way that helps us reach our goals. That's the big picture. Whether or not we get an extra 3% or 1% in credit card rewards, that's not ultimately going to help us get to the goal. How hard we work, what job we have, how hard we invest, those are the things that are going to really get us towards the goals. So kind of splitting hairs if we're worried about credit card points, but I imagine if you have feelings about this, you'll be leaving me a comment right now like, Brendan, I'm never going to give up my Amazon Prime Rewards card. Like, that's cool. I understand that. You deserve to have that opinion. So I actually want to hear it. I want to know from you. Does it seem like unique features? Does it seem like something that's value add for you? Or are you like, heck no, keep my credit card. Screw you, Ivella. Let me know. Curious. That's the secret comment word for the day too. All right. Here's another video for you guys. No, this side. Here's another video for you guys to watch, and I'll see you next time. Bye.